Good morning. Oh, it's really loud. I'm Sheila Andreen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of IndieFlix, which is the Netflix of independent film, basically. And I got the privilege of introducing Rand Fishkin, who is the CEO of Moz, and he's all things content and social. And I sort of look at the work he does as he can take data and analyze it and find it and then interpret it and turn it into this easy-to-read treasure map and tell a great story, which is so great for people like me who want to reach our audience and understand what we're doing in this digital world. And he sort of helps you to say, on those maps in the malls, you are here, and this is where everything else is. So please give a good round of applause for Rand Fishkin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sheila. That's far too kind. You're actually all in the wrong room. I'm not actually that great a speaker or presenter. It's kind of gonna be mediocre. No, I'm kidding. No, actually, I made a brand new presentation for you guys, a whole new one, because I love Seattle and I love Seattle Interactive, and yeah, it's awesome of you guys to pack the room. So this is a big challenge for a lot of marketers. And one of the other challenges that I find when I'm presenting is people try and take notes furiously. They try and copy down all the URLs and get all the different slides and take pictures of them. You don't need to do that. Right now, live on SlideShare at bit.ly/keepupwithgoogle, you will find this presentation in full in its entirety. So no need to do anything except write down bit.ly/keepupwithgoogle. And if you are thinking to yourself, didn't he just tell me this was going to be a mediocre presentation? Why would I bother getting the slides? And then at the end of the presentation, you find yourself wanting this URL again. It'll be on the last slide, too. So it's very convenient. It's like the 520 bridge after they put in the toll. It's just really nice. I've actually only ever crossed Lake Washington by plane, but that's another problem. All right, so as marketers, particularly those who need to pay attention to the SEO world, we have this huge challenge, right? So in 2011, Google made over 500 algorithmic updates. Now they're actually publicly saying 665 algorithmic launches, things they tested, decided were good enough, and launched just last year. Right? And you're thinking, wait, I only heard about 2. Why have I only heard of these 2 black and white animals if there's 665 launches? Yeah, big challenge. And there's massive amounts of fluctuation in the search results themselves. So I asked Dr. Pete, one of our data scientists at Moz, if he could give me some statistics on just exactly how much things change. And the average, on average, each month, 8.5 of the top 10 will move. Across tens of thousands of search results, 8.5 of the top 10 will move. There's no static search results, right? Like if you guys remember back in the Google Dance days before 2003, when it used to just be, oh yeah, I got a #1 ranking. I can sit on my butt for 29 days because they won't change again for another 29 days. And every day, 78% of all search results will have some ranking changes. 78%! There's like 1 out of 5. Where nothing actually changes, and that's only in a day, and then tomorrow it's probably going to change again. I know you're scared. You're thinking, oh my God, he's going to show us 85 different types of search results. I'm not actually going to do that. I will show you a few, though, right? So you've got this, which you will never see this. Do you know how long it took me to find a search result with nothing in it except blue links? It's impossible. It takes forever. Here's a search for Brian Rauschenbach, who did a great job organizing this conference, right? And he's got his images, and oh, look, here's killer whale results. And they've got knowledge graph and the little video snippets and the news for killer whales. And wow, in the bowl, now they've got this like local site links new thing that they're showing in knowledge graph for local stuff and news for in the bowl. That's not actually news for in the bowl. That just happens to say BYU accepts fight hunger bowl bid. Boo. I mean, it's great for them. I'm not saying that it's bad that they accepted the bowl bid. I just mean that's not relevant. Portland Burgers. Now you're getting the local carousel results. And oh, Delta Airlines. Look at this knowledge graph. You don't have to go to their website anymore. Because what were you going to do when you went to their website? You were going to check on flight times, weren't you? Well, look, you can just track your flight status right in there. Sorry, Delta, you don't get any more traffic. Google took it. Marsha Wallace, who was the voice of Edna Krabappel and just passed away, which is very sad. I heard that The Simpsons are going to now retire her. But there you go. News results, knowledge graph results. Seahawks record, by the way. Oh, man, we really did not deserve that W yesterday. But that being said, still representing. Look, the NFL, they don't get the traffic. Seahawks.com doesn't get the traffic. There's literally dozens and dozens, nearly 100 different types of unique search results, and they're rolling out more new and different ones all the time. And besides all of those challenges, there's these fine individuals. I say that euphemistically. Right? From Fiverr, who will help you with all sorts of things SEO. You'll probably get a lot of email spam saying that people can help you with SEO. Your cousin's friend had a roommate from college, and him and Dark Helmet can help you with SEO. Like, it's just miserable. And by the way, if you ever buy any of these, you have only yourself to blame, because this is a terrible, really? I will write a 300 words SEO optimized buying guide. And that guy has like a bunch of star ratings. That's the crazy part. Look, these are the recommended services. What do you think Fiverr is doing with the regular ones? Can't even imagine. All right. And we have this entity, Google, that historically had been kind of relatively trustworthy, right? They wouldn't tell you everything that was going on, but they were mildly transparent, and they definitely focused on it. And then over the last 4 or 5 years, it's really that transparency has gotten less and less. The data they provide is lower and lower. They're becoming much more insular and protectionist. And a lot of the information that they do give about SEO isn't very actionable, right? So I don't mean to say that their SEO advice is wrong. You can go and read Google's SEO guide, and it might indeed help you, but it's low on value add. Right? And this makes it really tough, because that means you need to go to third parties and you have to find people that you actually trust. That's hard too, because the SEO world, unfortunately, is filled with all the other kinds of stuff I just talked about. So if there's this huge challenge, why should we even bother keeping up with this insane pace of change? Well, it turns out if you knew things in 2009, right? If you were sort of like, yeah, I kind of have my best practices from 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm doing all right, well, that will not take you very far today, right? And whatever you're not executing on, whatever opportunity you are missing, because search results exist whether you appear in them or not, that's lost to your competition. Necessarily lost to your competition, which is an insane amount of frustration, because you know that every month, right, so far in the history of the internet, there's never been a month where there were fewer people searching. There's never been a month where there were fewer searches per searcher, hence growing the pie all the time. Despite the social media craze, search continues to get bigger. And frustratingly, too, in SEO, the rich get richer, right? Think about if you're at the top of the search results, what happens? Someone performs a query, they go visit your page. Now, they have the propensity and the likelihood that they might share that, email someone, spread it around, buy something from that result, link to it, drive traffic to it. And all of those signals are directly or indirectly coming back to Google and giving them the likelihood that they're going to rank number 1 some more, which is really frustrating. This is why actually position 1 has the least amount of flux in all of the search results. Right? So you have this rich gets richer phenomenon. And if you used, over the past 5, 6, 7, 10 years, if you use manipulative tactics, it's very possible or likely that in the past year or two, and in the next year or two, you're going to be experiencing a lot of pain around that. Right? So things like Panda and Penguin and the updates, and lots of algorithmic elements that are not those two, that don't necessarily have names but are impacting a lot of search results, are shutting down people who've done what I like to call transactional SEO. Like, oh, I would like to rank higher, therefore I am going to build links that I can find that are open on the internet, but generally a bad idea. Weird part to me as well is that as marketers, our job is to know the answer when our CEO, CMO, client, buddy in the industry comes to us and says, hey, did you hear about that hummingbird thing? What's up with that? And if you go, huh? Which, by the way, that is the formal way as an SEO indicates that they don't know the answer. You can practice it at home. Keeping up with this stuff is as important as doing the work, right? So reason being, if you have this kind of situation, right, where you've got, I've got a block of productive work in green here, a block of useless work, and a block of negative work that's actually taking away from my efforts. And if you don't know what you're doing in SEO, you're going to have a lot of A, useless work, and B, negative work. And so you can actually work less if you know more. It's a field that requires a ton of knowledge. So I tried to come up with the answer to this question. What is it that we absolutely have to know if we're going to be marketers on not necessarily on the cutting edge of SEO, but know enough to do our jobs well? I think we need to know the major algorithmic updates. We need to know what they mean. We need to understand them because we will get asked and we will have responsibilities around this. And if we don't have that competency, we'll either lose face or lose traffic or both. Neither are good. So for example, right, Panda, which is an update that many of you are probably familiar with. This is, by the way, not an update that focuses on bad links that you might have gotten, right? Many people have this misconception. You should not have this misconception. Panda really focused on basically Google looking at all sorts of elements of user satisfaction and happiness with pages. So things like pogo sticking, right? They go to a page and then they bounce back to the search results and click on something else, or they visit your site, but the time on site's very low compared to the other people in the search results, that kind of stuff. If that's happening on a wide-scale basis across many pages on your site, Google sort of said, get out of there. We don't want you around. Right? And you can look at the types of sites that got hit. The classic one, of course, being eHow, which did have a fantastic article on how to drink water. I don't know if you guys read that. That was really... I learned a lot from eHow. No, actually, can I tell you something embarrassing? So this is many years ago, but the founders of eHow, who also founded WikiHow, went to a conference that I was at back when I did consulting. It was like 2006. And I think his name's Josh something. I met with him again. Now he's like a venture capitalist and drives a Tesla, and he's all fancy pants. Still a nice dude. Didn't fund us, but relatively nice dude. Moderately nice dude? I don't know. But anyway, at the time, right, he was like, hey, could you do some SEO? We have the site eHow, da-da-da-da. And we sort of got this like scalable SEO strategy in place, and then they executed on it. Like they did a really fantastic job. As a consultant, as an SEO consultant, like you're used to telling people, hey, here's the thing to do, and this is going to be awesome, and you're totally going to kick butt if you do it, and then nobody listens, right? They just take the document and pay you some money, and then it never happens. eHow did it, and then now I'm just embarrassed, right? Because when you saw him in the search results until Panda, I was like, oh, man, I shouldn't have. Now I feel bad. All right. Penguin. That was my story. I know it wasn't all that exciting, but Penguin. Right, so Penguin is essentially Google looking at a bunch of spammy sources of links. This is the one where if you did some bad link building in the past or someone else did, it's amazing to me how many people are like, oh, I didn't do this bad link building. Someone else must have done it to my site. I am yet to be totally convinced about that. But the idea being, you have things like exact match anchor text and site-wide low-quality links from bad pages and stuff. You're going to get hit by this. Well, eventually, right? They updated on a machine learning kind of classification, just like Panda. And then there's Hummingbird. And Hummingbird is a little weird because Google says, right? Amit Singhal comes out and he goes, "This is the biggest change that we've ever made to Google search. Like in the last decade that I've been running search at Google, this is the biggest change we ever had." And search marketers were kind of like, wait. And it happened a month ago, and we didn't even notice. So how is it that this is the biggest change, right? And he's like, this affected, unlike Panda or Penguin, which affects sub 10% of queries, this affected 90% of queries. 90%, my God, like everything changed. Well, so first off, we just learned that 80% change every day. So 90% of queries are sort of like, so a little more than normal. And secondarily, this really targeted kind of the long tail, which is not what we in the SEO field tend to measure, right? We have the keywords that we focus on and care about, the ones that really drive traffic and high value for us. And so Hummingbird is kind of saying, this is actually a nice example. So it used to be, if you did a search for best bank interest rates for savings account, you would get a lot of pages that have those words in the title element, right? They'd be kind of articles on second or third tier resources that focused around, this is the best bank, this is the best interest rate for savings accounts at banks in the US, right? That would be kind of the title tag. And that stuff is actually now on like page 2 and 3. And ranking number 1 is a lot of stuff that fits the searcher's intent quite well, right? So things like top 10 high yield savings account from NerdWallet. Doesn't have a great keyword match, doesn't even have some of those words on the page, but Hummingbird is saying, the intent is there. We think we can semantically match up the intent with the keywords and get rid of a lot of this keyword matching that we've biased towards for the history of Google. So kind of a cool update. I like it as a searcher. I think it's kind of cool as an SEO too. And then there's major click biasing changes. So these are things that bias how we click on search results, how users click on search results. Also hugely important for us to be aware of. And these are things like banners. This is a banner. This is a banner that sits above search results. After Google promised, right? They swore in 2005, you will never, ever, ever see a banner on Google. It will never happen. Well, until 2013, when we need to juice up our earnings statement. So Southwest Airlines, right? Here's this huge, this is the banner. That's right down there. This guy, that's the first result. This is all banner. Crazy, I know. Anyway, click biasing change. Knowledge graph, huge click biasing change. For a lot of generic terms that you used to be able to get traffic for, right? I'd search for risotto, wondering, what is risotto, right? I'm going to look it up. I'm at an Italian restaurant. Maybe I've never heard of it before. And I would click Wikipedia. Maybe I'd click on the kitchen or Food Network. Well, not anymore. Look, this is my least favorite thing. So they've taken this content from Dish, right? The images from Dish and the content from Wikipedia, and they're showing it right there, so I can just read exactly what I want, which is great as a searcher and horrifying as a publisher. Right? This Google essentially taking my traffic away. Even worse, they don't actually even link to Dish here. This is not a link, that's not a link. Boo. I'm not happy. But Knowledge Graph is very convenient. Very, very convenient. Rel author markup. We did some testing. So we had a search result where, I apologize, I should have shown that, but we had a search result where the first 2 results didn't have rel author on them, and the third one did. The rel author meaning this little picture of the person who wrote it. By the way, it's getting a little bit harder to get your picture listed after an update they did day before yesterday. See, I'm like totally paying attention, mostly because I follow AJ Cohn and a bunch of other people on Google+. But there you go. Rel author biasing clicks. We were seeing that the number 3 result with the little picture was getting more clicks than 1 and 2 combined. You think you're winning because you're like, I'm ranking number 1 and number 2. Actually, number 3 guy is getting more clicks than 1 and 2. That's very frustrating. Also of note, you can optimize these pictures. So Cyrus, this picture right here, which is not rel author. I mean, it kind of is, but what it actually is it's because I'm logged in to my Google account, and I follow Cyrus on Google+. He's in one of my circles. And so anything I search for that's been shared, where the keywords match anything that's been shared on Google+, you'll rank. You'll rank like top 5 for that. And it's the Google+ page, by the way. So this is Google redirecting traffic to Google. Anyway, do you get the sense there's like a trend? Maybe? I don't know. Could just be me. Maybe I'm crazy. Tactical SEO tip, share your stuff on Google+ and get more people in your circles. It shows up there. Then there's major user behavior changes. right? This is from the Pew Internet and American Life Project, and I'm not going to share the data in there, but you can check it out. The 2012 Search Engine Use Report has a lot of fascinating high-level data. So you can see things like mobile search behavior changing how people are querying, right? And mobile search being something between 10 and 15%. For some kinds of queries, it's 40 or 50%. A lot of very local, hyper-local focused queries. It's much higher. You can see load speed expectations over the years and sort of how that fits with how you're going to perform doing SEO, doing web marketing as a whole, but certainly doing SEO as well. You can look at click-through rate curve changes, right? So this is an interesting one. I'll talk for a sec about it. So when I see one of these, I try not to pay too much attention to these numbers here. What I really like looking at is the standard deviation. Standard deviation of these tells me, this is like the treasure map. This is I'm going to go to the mall with Sheila, and we're going to find exactly where the Nike store is. Not that I buy Nikes. What do I buy? These are Moods of Norway. I don't know. It's like a Seattle guy. He's pretty cool. They probably don't have him at the mall, do they? That's all right. I look at the standard deviation because standard deviation shows me that over time, as people do these click-through rate curve experiments, what they're seeing is that standard deviation is going up and up and up and up. What does that mean? That means people are clicking in different places more often, right? So instead of essentially like, oh, number one gets this much traffic, number two gets, it depends. The answer is it really depends because it's way all over the place. Totally query dependent, totally results dependent. And changes, of course, to your competitive landscape. And I don't have any particular detail on this, but that's kind of the last element that we need to pay attention to. All right. So what can Google's history tell us about what's coming ahead and how we can keep up? Well, we know Google of the past focused on very limited inputs, right? So I'm completely embarrassed to say, yes, this is me making graphics in Flash in like 2005, I know. Actually, no, it's a lot more embarrassing. That's 2009. That's just, I think some of the design and UX team from Moz is in the room, and they're just like, I'm so ashamed. I'm so ashamed. But, right, so you essentially have like, okay, this is sort of historical and usage data and on page and then links. And it's true, like back in 2009, well, and even more so from like, 97 to 2007, links were it, man. It was like, yeah, let me just get the page up and make it sure it's crawlable, and then that it targets the right keywords, and now I can just pour links to it. It doesn't even matter what's on the page, I'll rank. Not that it matters what's on the page because I care if people convert, but, right? In Google of the future, we should all swear because, my God, this pie chart is way too colorful. It's just irresponsible, right? But you get the sense, like, so this is taken from our survey that we do every 2 years, and we did it again this year. We do it odd years, where we ask SEO professionals. This year is about 130 SEO professionals in the field who we have kind of a high degree of respect for, what their opinions of the inputs of Google's algorithm. This is the average of that opinion data, right? So this is not scientific by any means. This is just sort of what do SEOs think is going on, right? How do they perceive it? And you can see here, this is a ton more complex, right? There's a lot more inputs. There's a lot less power coming from any one source, which as a marketer can actually be a wonderful thing because Google's algorithm is so much broader. But as a transactional SEO who's focused exclusively on sort of like, yes, first I build the page, then I target the keyword, then I get the link. Then I go back and I target the keyword and I build the page and I get the link. This kind of sucks. This makes SEO much harder for those folks. Right? We know Google of the past had 10 blue links. I did ask Dr. Pete as well. This is 20% of our data set across tens of thousands of results is 10 blue links and getting smaller. Google of the future, very visually complex, just like Macklemore's videos. There's a lot of detail in there. Like, there's depth. You can analyze. There's like, why is that squirrel over there? Well, it's right. So SEO of the past had a small subset of tasks, mostly technical tasks. right? Sort of, I have to do this, and very transactionally focused. And SEO in 2013 is a much broader variety of tasks. This probably does not even encompass the wide variety of tasks that SEOs do in their work to be successful, but it is massively expanded from just 5 years ago. And of course, in the past, SEO was very tactical, right? It was this block and tackle kind of thing, right? Like, which pages do we want to rank for? Let's create pages for the keywords we're not targeting. We're going to improve rankings, determine which keywords bring valuable traffic, and focus energy on that. And now we have this very strategic kind of like, okay, where does SEO fit in our marketing efforts, our marketing strategy? What are the channels where we can capture people? Where are people going to be searching? Now, how are we going to produce things that will actually reach those people and satisfy their need? Because if we don't satisfy the user need, we're not going to rank for very long, even if we do get a bunch of links. Who is it that can help us amplify this message? Right? We can't just put it out there and expect to transactionally build links anymore. We have to earn them. Earning them means reaching the audience that can actually share them and link to them. Execute, test, measure, broad lift across a bunch of different channels. Right now we have this multi-channel attribution stuff that we have to deal with to look at, okay, where did search actually fit into the picture, paid and organic, and then focus our energy on which parts are doing the needle moving. This is much more complex. So in addition to providing this kind of like, all right, how do we keep up? Like, where have we been over the past 5 years? I did want to give a few tactical and strategic tips, like things that you can walk out of here and be like, aha, I can do that. And they're not going to be way down in the weeds. Even though I'll give some tactical ones, I don't want to go super deep and be like, yes, put an orange background on your rel author picture and then connect it up to your YouTube account. No, I won't do that. Strategic tip number 1. The way that people buy, right, the way that people convert, become customers and potential customers is they first see something, right? They have an exposure to a brand, to a product, to a service, to an idea. And then they think, they have that consideration stage, like, is this an interesting thing for me? Is this something that potentially I might need? And then they do, right? They evaluate potential solutions and they go and transact on one of them. Maybe 2 of them. But, right, so if I wanted to buy these jeans, right, like I'm going to realize my need. I realized my need when I looked at the character that I'm going to dress up as for Halloween, and he has cuff jeans, and I didn't own any jeans with little cuffs at the bottom. So I thought to myself, right? I thought to myself, I should go out and buy some. And then I did. I went down to Nordstrom and I bought some jeans that were too long, and then I rolled them up. It's not actually super complex, but see, think, do. The challenge is we have to know what are all the channels where the people who are trying to target at these different stages are, and we have to realize what tactics we need to reach them, right? To appear in those channels. And as part of this, we have to know whether we're telling a cohesive story. This is something I actually feel like, for those of you who've had an experience with the Moz brand, right, or visited booth right there, I don't know that we do a fantastic job of this. Like, I don't think we tell this story cohesively and compellingly all the way through all of your experiences with Moz, and I think that's a big opportunity for us. People who do a great job of this, right, tell the same story up here at the first exposure, the first visit to the website, the return visits, and then tell that story again, right? Match that story to what's actually going on when you do product research and comparison and convert to a paying customer, and then start using whatever product it is. So they told me I would break these in if I wore them for a few days, and they would get more comfortable. And the guy at Nordstrom was right. Thank God they are much more comfortable today than they were on Sunday, so I can endorse them. Strategic number 2. Inside of this marketing funnel, we have to know where SEO fits. One of the things that's been crazy over the years is that SEOs have kind of gone with what I'd call a lot of vanity keywords and then a lot of direct converting keywords, right? We target terms and phrases that either the boss, CEO, whoever person says, that's important to me, client says, that's important to me, and we target the ones where when people click on that result, they have some propensity to buy right then. Those are the keywords that we've targeted. That's dumb. Right? Like, we know that people don't We know that people do this, right? That people do this. So how could it possibly be right to simply target terms and phrases that only happen right there? Right there. It's crazy pants McGillicuddy. You can use that. It's an SEO formal term. It's on Wikipedia, I know. There's a knowledge graph result for it. I don't rank for it anymore. Strategic number 3. I think if you're going to be good at modern SEO, you need broad strategic marketers. T-shaped marketers. Marketers who have knowledge of a lot of different channels, understanding of marketing as a whole, and then deep expertise in SEO, right? So they know and get things like email, PPC, display, video, HTML, UX, social, community. I get those things. I'm not a deep expert on all of those, but I am a deep expert on SEO. This is the kind of team that I would urge you to think about hiring, and that's true whether you're hiring externally as a consultancy or an agency, or hiring internally for a team. Tactical number 1. So I'm wearing this belt. I was kind of embarrassed because, so I thought this was like a super cool dinosaur belt from John Y., who makes awesome graphic leather belts, but it turns out when I went to his website, that's in the kids' belt section, which is really, just didn't totally make me feel great about my fashion choices, but whatever. But so, this is the problem, and this is the challenge, right? That if this is not compelling, this is essentially your advertisement. So if your snippet, right, the title, the meta description, the URL there, what you're saying in this, whether you can get some star ratings, right? I encourage John to get star ratings. I would give this dinosaur belt 5 stars. Well, now I'd give it 4.5 because it's a kid's belt. But if the snippet doesn't excite searchers and the page doesn't deliver on what it promised, why are you ranking? Why are you bothering to rank? And by the way, since Google is using all this usage and user data in primary and secondary and tertiary ways, you're not going to last long there anyway. I actually think John is doing a fine job, right? If I search for graphic belts and he's ranking number 1 and 2, and I go to the page, like, those are super cool belts, but there's opportunity. Technical tip number 2. Better content is far more valuable, big, greater than sign, that one, than more content. More content. More content is, I know it's how we've sort of classically been trained in the search world. Like, okay, I have a blog, I should update it every day. Okay, I have a product section, how do I add more details and more products? And, oh, I have a content site, a publication. Let me try and produce more and more and more and more content. And in that world, standing out is harder and harder and harder. And that's why I drew this highly scientific graph compiled from, research data. I just drew it. Right, so quality and value of your content on this axis, and attention, shares, links, and evangelism you can expect to receive on that axis. And you can see, like, even if it's pretty good, right? Most of what I hear people say, hey, we have a lot of good content on our site. Oh, good content. Yes, I don't doubt it. Like, I've seen lots of good content. There is lots of good content out there. But the value of that is really quite small. And anything under that is really somewhere between harmful and 0. It's when you get up here that you can stand out from the crowd. Standing out from the crowd is so powerful on the web today because it means that the return from the social shares, from the links, from the rankings, from the traffic, from the user and usage data, from the word of mouth spreading, from dark social that you can't even see, email and private networks and that kind of stuff, is just huge. And tactical number 3. So lots of people in our industry, in the marketing industry, do correlation studies, right? They look at what's correlated with a tweet earning more retweets, what's correlated with a Facebook share reaching more people, having higher, edge rank, historically edge rank. What is it that makes a piece of content go viral on YouTube, right? Like a video. Or what is it in our world, in the search world, right? We look a lot at what is it that predicts that something will rank higher than something else. And correlation data doesn't tell us why these results, right, these top results outrank these ones. It doesn't say why. It simply says, these are things that these guys have that these guys tend not to have. And I am way more interested in that than I'm actually interested in what might be going on behind the scenes. Because whatever it is that predicts those higher rankings probably means, especially if I can figure it out for my pages, right? The things that are going on in my world. If I can figure those out, then I know what success looks like. So I'll give you an example, right? So whenever it's hot in Seattle, we have more violent crime, right? This is actually true in every American city, right? Whenever it's very warm in a city, the temperature goes above like 85. In Seattle, it's like 75 because we're wimps. But when it goes above 85, right, like in a city like Philadelphia or New York or something, right, like you can draw kind of a straight line of violent crime incidents to heat. And I'm not sure, but I don't think it's necessarily that, someone gets up and they're sort of like, ooh, it's really hot. I should hurt somebody. Like that doesn't happen, right? That's not what goes on. However, if you're the police, if you're law enforcement, and you know that there's areas of high violent crime, you might say to yourself, maybe it's going to be hot tomorrow. We should bring everyone onto the force. Like, let's get our contractors up and let's do some overtime spend. And that's a really smart thing to do. This is the same thing in the marketing world. We're not saying, oh, well, it's the heat that's causing it. I don't care, but I still want to put my force on the streets when I know that it's going to be hot out. So as an example, right, this is a bunch of correlation data. We saw an extremely high correlation, a weirdly high correlation between the Google Plus ones on a URL and that URL's propensity to rank, which tells me, well, I really should be using Google Plus, and I really should be doing things that are going to get people to do sharing and engagement on Google+. Not, yes, Google must be using Google Plus ones exactly in their algorithm. They probably are not using it directly exactly. In fact, they said, I think, we are not specifically exactly using precisely just the number of Google Plus ones. And then everybody's like, oh, must be wrong. It's not wrong, it's just interesting, still interesting. And then the last thing I'm going to do is share a few free recommended resources. I'll go through these really quick and we can do some Q&A. I like Search Engine Land's top news. If you go to their homepage, you can click on top news, but if you get it here, it's got the search news briefs. The inbound.org homepage, virtually anything super interesting that happens in the search and SEO world tends to appear here. It's sort of like the Hacker News or the Reddit of the web marketing industry. Search Engine Roundtable, Barry Schwartz does a great job of covering new stuff. The Moz Top 10 email, I know this is a little bit shilling, but it's totally free and it tries not to heavily market anything. And in fact, most of these links, as a rule, more than 8 or 9 out of 10 of them are not our stuff. This is just a collection of good, important things that we send every 2 weeks we think marketers should read. And then Mozcast, this is the project from Dr. Pete, who assembled all that data for me, showing Google's algorithmic flux any given day. So if something changes and your search traffic crashes and you want to know, was that Google updating or was it just me? You can go check Mozcast, and that'll show the data every day. If you need that URL again, it's bit.ly/keepupwithgoogle. And with that, let's take some questions. Oh, thanks. You don't need to be shy. There's no dumb ones. It's completely fine. Hey.
In the new version of Google, Hummingbird, I'm assuming is the latest one, or whatever version is the latest, how do you see sites like Tumblr and content publishing sites compare with Google Plus, or compete?
Yeah, well, so what's interesting that I seem to be seeing, and I'm not sure if this is something that Google's been, I think they've been relatively quiet about how they've treated Google+, but it tends to be, if you are logged out, right, not logged into your Gmail or any Google account that you might have, you have a pretty low chance of seeing Google+ URLs, right? So they're not kind of replacing a lot of search results with Google+ stuff. The opposite is true if you're logged into your Google account, which means you now automatically are logged into Google+ as well. And if you have anyone in your circles, or even if you've sent email to people, right? Like you and I trade emails. Now, if I share something about keeping up with Google, and you search for "keep up with Google," chances are good you'll see my Google Plus share in there. And so it's a very very valuable thing to have a big network through Google Plus and a good extended network through Google in general, as a marketer certainly. And it's also but it is the case that Google's not replacing those in kind of the normal logged out, non-personalized results. The challenge, as all of you I'm sure know, is that there are there's no one who's not somehow being biased in some way by their location. I'm on my phone, and so I'm logged into my Google account through that, or I downloaded Google Maps on my iPhone, and so I'm logged in through that, or whatever it is, right? They have some way to personalize to you, and that's a really big, important thing for them. So I think the trend is going to be, even if you think your users are relatively unsophisticated, not logged in, you're going to see more and more activity there. So, but I'm not crying for Tumblr. I think they're going to get some help from Yahoo's SEO team, who's actually pretty darn impressive. Hey.
Hey, you differentiated between good and great content. When you're determining what is good and great content, are you determining compared to your competitors or compared to all of the internet?
It depends on the field. I like to compare against all of the internet because my audience tends to be very savvy, sophisticated people like all of you in this room, right, who are sort of have been there and seen it and have a very high bar. So if your industry is less so, the challenge is that you still need and want influencers, right? People who have social media savvy, people who own websites and could potentially link to you, people who might editorially recommend you somehow on the internet. And those people tend to be savvy. So you kind of have this world of like, the digerati that you have to reach if you want to do influencing. So even if it is, hey, look, I'm trying to reach steel workers in rural Ohio. That's my primary target market. Well, you still really do want those people, those few people who have an interest in what you're doing and the potential to share or link. So it's a little tough. You kind of got to play that field no matter what. By the way, really quick tactic, my favorite way to do this, since you already have connections with your market, hopefully you guys have done the lean startup thing where you actually validate your market and know people in it, you can ask them. You can email them and be like, hey, would you take this 2-minute survey and tell me which of the following blog posts would be most interesting to you? I love doing that. I did it just the other week. I was like, hey, here's these 5 posts I'm thinking about writing. And then 2 of them got a lot of votes, and that told me I shouldn't write the other 3. That's helpful.
Hi.
Sorry.
I do marketing at PayScale.
Awesome.
I know you know Barnaby,
Yeah.
One thing that we've been kind of struggling with since Hummingbird came out is the whole natural versus unnatural linking and what's natural. Because we're not paying for links necessarily, but we have partners that have linked to us in various ways, and we put press releases out. There's different things that are out there, and it's kind of the old practice of linking on rich keywords seemed to make sense, and then now it's like, do we link on click here, or
or your brand name?
Yeah,
or something
we're
like
just
that,
not sure kind of what to do and how much to pay attention to that.
Yeah. So. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably take a relatively cautious approach right now. And just to be totally clear, I don't mean to be pedantic, but Hummingbird had nothing to do with links or your backlink profiles. You don't have to worry about Hummingbird specifically. But Google in general, right, with the Penguin 2.1 update that they just did and sort of their focus around exact keyword match anchor text and a lot of heavy linking across site-wides, especially if it's lower quality sites that are picking up your stuff and linking to you, you may have some risk. What I think helps keep you safe is that you didn't place those links anywhere, right? Those are essentially completely editorially given. People are embedding your widget, linking back to you because they want to, not because you did anything proactively. And those kind of earned links are very valuable. Where I'd have slight concern is if you're producing, say, a widget that a lot of people are embedding, and you control that anchor text, and you make it 4 different variations of keywords you really want to rank for that point to these particular pages, that gets a little dicier. And I might be tempted to go a little less exact keyword match and a little more. So I try to make it feel like if I were a Google engineer and I visited the page, I'd be like, oh, they probably weren't even trying to do SEO. That's how I'd try and make the link look and feel. So I'd be like, brought to you by PayScale's salary calculator, right? And so now you do have the keyword salary in there, but the rest of it sounds pretty natural. That's kind of the way I'd go. Hey.
So I work for a smaller agency that does UX design, but also app development.
Yeah, cool.
So we're moving from a super text-heavy site into a more image-heavy site to really illustrate our portfolio for what we do for our clients. And it looks really awesome, but it has about 75% less text than the other one. So I'm losing a lot of the text that I had before that was bringing people, and now I'm getting in the situation more where I have maybe 3 sentences to describe what the portfolio pieces are with kind of outliers of just naming client names with technologies used. And so I'm seeing my search traffic decrease immensely. And case studies that we do are being hosted more on the partner sites that we did the app for rather than our site.
Yep.
So do you have any suggestions for how to increase my traffic up?
I'd probably think about, because I don't want to ruin the sort of the beauty or the brand impression that you're trying to create. And so I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, well, let's just throw a bunch of text to the bottom of those pages. Let's not do that. I would think about, however, opening up potentially a new section of the site. That could be a blog, it could be a selection of articles, it could be papers or data or research or something that you release on a semi-regular basis, and I'd focus on making that a little more text-heavy. So I'd probably go with a completely new section of the site, and then I'd urge the wonderful thing about having all these visuals is that visual assets are hugely valuable. They earn a lot more links, people pick them up, right? People take them and put them in their presentations, and then they link back to your site on SlideShare, and then other people find those. And so visual assets are a wonderful thing. By the way, I hate infographics. I am not saying infographics. I don't hate all infographics, but most of them. And I love visual assets, so I think that's probably the way I'd go. Cool.
I just have a comment.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
Thank you for all of the resources that you have on your page for like SEO for total noobs.
We actually call it SEO for total noobs. It's a great name. There's a lot of search traffic for that.
Absolutely. Those things are very, very helpful.
Thank you. It's really kind. Oh, that was just a comment. Wow. Oh, well, that's so nice. I'm going to give it to the gentleman at the microphone, but yes, hello.
Thanks, Rand.
Yeah.
One question for you. So I really liked your distinction on great versus good content, I find. One thing I love about the SEO Moz blog is you guys are always putting out great content, so thanks for that.
Oh, thanks.
How do you deal with the situation of even when you're producing great content that, all your customers might identify as great content and still it's challenging for Google to pick it up? Do you just sit and wait, or do you have a strategy for actually pushing it yourself?
Sometimes one, sometimes the other. So sometimes when I put something out there that I think is fantastic and it doesn't earn rankings, I sort of go, well, let's give Google time. And I think that over time, as it gets exposed through other channels, through social, through email, through third-party resources, especially stuff like an inbound.org or the Moz Top 10 or someone picking it up in an editorial selection. But I will do some pushing. So I'll give you a few examples. Number one, I do a lot of interviews. Like people want to, they have questions. Hey, the new Penguin update came out. Would you be willing to do an interview for this real estate marketing website? Sure, yes, absolutely. And then I'll do something like, in my answer, I'll link back to, the Penguin resource that we wrote, or the one Gianluca wrote, and now that's ranking, better, right? It's getting picked up and shared. The other thing that I really love to do is I love updating stuff. So if you think about, I'm going to put a ton of energy and effort into a resource, and I'm going to launch it once, and if it doesn't work, well, it's never new again, unless you update it. And so a good example is the search ranking factors. I think the first time we produced it in '05, it was ranking on page 1, but the bottom of page 1. And the second time we did it in '07, it's like number 3. And now from '09, '11, and 2013, it's been number 1 for like 5 years, right? It's one of our big traffic drivers. So updating on a regular basis is a great way. And it also serves user intent because people want the most recent information. And Google themselves has a heavy bias to fresh content, sort of new stuff that goes out there, particularly the first few days after a search query volume spike. So I like doing all those things.
Thanks.
Cheers. Hey.
This might be a little bit more of a broad question, but so my question would be, what do you think is the future of Google Plus? It seems like right now it's like a kind of a space where people like try to increase their SEO rankings somehow. What does Google want to do with it? Is it supposed to be a Facebook competitor, or just more of that?
Yeah, I really don't think so. I think more so than a social network, like you and I connect on there, and then I'll show you, photos from my trip with my wife to some vacation spot or something. It's much more of an interest graph sharing network. Right? So I'm going to share things that are interesting to me, and Google seems to do a pretty good job of filtering out, weeding out stuff that doesn't perform well there. So if your content doesn't earn any shares, any likes, any +1s, which a lot of the stuff where you're talking about, like people trying to increase their SEO, that stuff just doesn't perform. But if you actually have something interesting to share, and you have an audience who really cares about it, and they're following you on Google+, you can do remarkable things there. One of the weirdest things that I've noticed, and this is very much the tech sector, but when I share something that is, say startup related, like Seattle startup related, or marketing related, or SEO related, I will usually get a much higher volume of activity, so comments, +1s, shares on Google+ per follower than I get on Twitter. So I have about twice as many followers on Twitter, and I get between the same and more interaction on Google+. And I think that's because there's actually fewer users of that network. And so when you go to your Google+ page, you're not following that many people. It doesn't kind of fall down, far down the page. You see it front and center. And so I see Google+ as a great marketing channel, great place to learn, which is fascinating stuff there. Great place to find influencers, because you can go to something that's been shared a lot on Google+ and see the view ripples, right? And you can see how it's spread across the web and who helped it spread, and you can get in touch with those people. So it's a fairly cool service. I like it a lot. I think their future is not going to be social network. I think they're going to be competing much more with like the way that we use Twitter or Reddit than the way that we use Facebook. Hey.
Hi. On Google Plus again, can you speak on what the demographic audience is? Because about 1.5 years ago, I read it was very technology-dominated, very male-oriented, and we stayed away from it because our business is more on food and B2C and a female market. Now, given all these changes, would you recommend exploring Google Plus because of its SEO benefits, even though our demographics might not fit into it?
Well, so I wouldn't recommend it purely because of the SEO benefits. I would recommend it because of the influencer benefits. So essentially, in conferences like this all over the planet, there are people who are influencers and marketers and people who run websites, food bloggers, food writers, authors. All those people are joining Google+, and they are doing sharing on there. That's an audience you want to reach. It's kind of weird to think about, but you actually have, this is the audience I want to reach. This is my consumer. This is my audience of amplifiers, people who can help me reach more people. They are on Google+. They are tech savvier, but just by virtue of who they are and what they do. So that's why I'd urge you to use it, not necessarily for the SEO benefits. I think actually you can, if you go on there thinking SEO, oh, let me just share everything I can so that people who follow me will get spammed with this stuff and it'll appear in their rank. No way. Your stuff will not appear at all, and you'll have no success. But
Okay, thanks.
sure. Hi.
Hi. With wearables coming online, how do you see SEO changing in the age of context?
Wearables. I don't see. So I'm going to put a potentially unpopular position. I'm going to say I think wearables will be a relatively small market segment. And secondarily, it's my opinion that they won't change our usage much more than mobile already has. Like a mobile device, by virtue of being in my pocket, is not much less accessible than a watch, than a headpiece, what have you. So I don't see it changing behavior. I could see, if it takes off, I could see a lot more local search behavior. Yeah. And I think this is an insanely frustrating thing for local small businesses because they, and I hope many of you were in David Mims' session yesterday where he talked about kind of how to do all that work. But, from a local SEO perspective, that is probably going to become more and more and more important, right? Every younger generation is using their phone or their device to find where they're going to shop, eat, transact in a neighborhood where they're at. So it's much harder to just stand out from the crowd without having a digital presence. Yeah, pleasure. Okay, I'm going to take one over here and then I'll get to you. Hi. 5 minutes. Okay.
So I didn't want to watch the microphone.
No, that's okay. I'll repeat the question for the.
So I work for someone who has 50,000 pages of content, manages 3,000 keywords, and kind of just went in the direction of that super graphics-centric look and feel. Remove the left nav, and search rankings have taken a dive. So so when you're dealing with that much kind of content and your revenues coming from users coming to your site, do you have to, are you stuck with the left nav, or are there other?
Well, so you're not stuck with any particular kind of navigation or UX, but you are, in some senses, you're tied to your content, right? Content has become an asset for you. It's driving traffic that's valuable, that converts. So removing that content is sort of like saying, hey, we're a grocery store. Let's get rid of, the four of these aisles because they're not that profitable. Oh, wait, it turns out that was the stuff that people came in for, and then they bought the profitable stuff. And that's where, I think the challenge lies. Content is an asset. You can think of it almost like a loss leader. It's an important driver. And so losing it is not particularly an option unless you have some other channel that can replace that. But I like content a lot. It's powerful. Hey.
Just a two-part question. I know big brands generally have more of an advantage with all these recent updates, such as like the Southwest Airlines with the PPC there, the knowledge graph. But what should big brands watch out for? And then also the second part is, are there any vast differences between verticals that you're seeing with these recent changes?
So what do big brands need to look out for, and changes in verticals? Differences in verticals. I think changes that big brands need to look out for are competitive types of situations where another brand can kind of take over and own their space, keyword-wise, and that follows that rich get richer principle. So if you're a big brand, you're dominating a large amount, you have a great content network, and then suddenly your competitors kind of eking out more and better stuff than you. They're taking over the space little by little. They're sort of winning in terms of social and search and content. I think that's a big challenge. You do need to watch out for sort of manipulative, junky SEO types of practices, but tragically, less so than sort of smaller and medium-sized folks. Big brands get a little bit of a pass because Google needs them in their index, right? Google looks dumb if a big brand isn't in there and you perform a search, right? So you do a search for Audi, their website doesn't come up. You don't blame Audi as a searcher, you blame Google, right? So that's kind of the case. On the search verticals, I think you have to look at intent, right? So Google is very intent-minded with their verticals. They try and show things only when they have some reasonable amount of confidence and testing data that says people like this, and they tend to click on it more than the regular results. I think the flip side of that is, the flip side of intent is also looking at opportunity, right? And so in some verticals, For some publishers, there's no opportunity, and you have to decide whether you're going to enter a completely new space in order to have that opportunity. News is a good example. Images is a good example if you don't have visual assets yet. Local is a reasonable example if you have no storefronts or no local presence, and you're sort of thinking, gosh, this is a very local-minded business, and maybe we do need to have a presence. So those are the two that I'd think about. I think there was one more down here. No? We may need to wrap up, gang. So I'll be around here if you want to grab me, but thank you so much. You guys are awesome.